It's showtime.
People should not be afraid of their governments. Governments should be afraid of their people.
You know, the right to bear arms is because that's the last form of defense against tyranny.
Made in America, heard around the world. You're listening to Blunt Force Truth. I'm Chuck Woolery, along with my co-host Mark Young. And you know, it's no matter how stupid, how incredibly insane the policies set forth by the Democrats are, you cannot, I defy you to embarrass them. You cannot embarrass them.
How stupid are they, Chuck?
Well, they're so stupid.
Now. Hi-oh.
Yeah, I know. But it is amazing. It just is. I mean, the new Green Deal and all these guys in Virginia falling in Northam, who had no idea that his yearbook had all those pictures of him in blackface and a Ku Klux Klan outfit.
I say, son.
Yeah, I mean, really. The only reason that came out is because one of his friends was so mad, and one of his classmates was so mad that he wanted to kill babies after they were born, that he sent that out. I mean, this guy's been in politics a long time. I mean, he's a pediatrician, but he was also lieutenant governor for a while, and nobody ever found out about this stuff then.
But he has now proclaimed himself as the moral compass of Virginia.
I know, it's amazing. It's incredible. You know, just go with a counterintuitive. That's perfect.
He is the moral compass of Virginia because I'm not the guy in that KKK outfit. I'm not even the guy in the blackface. Right. I did, however, shoe polish up my face and
listen.
Michael Jackson at a dance concert. Would you like to see me do the moonwalk? Oh, no. My wife says I can't do the moonwalk during a news broadcast.
Yeah, so he's talking about spit shining his shoes in the service. I remember spit shining shoes. You have a very thin cloth and you put it on the shoe wax or the shoe polish, and then you polish the shoes. And, you know, if you get it on your finger, it's really hard to get off. You can't do it. So I guess
it's even harder when you rub your face over it.
Yeah, I know. Okay, so here's what he said to Gayle King. He said, you know, coming up on 400 years since the first ship landed and let off those indentured servants.
Yeah, all those indentured slaves. All those
indifferent surgeons. No, he said indentured servants. Now, there's a difference between slaves and indentured servants, and Gayle King nor he even knew the difference. He said, you mean slaves? Oh, yeah, that's what I meant. Of course, I meant slaves.
That's what I do. I mean that, boy.
Of course, you got me right. So an indentured servant was a contract. It was a contract usually with English men and women and boys or Irish and Welsh.
It was usually 7 years.
That's right. It was 7 years, and they came over and they served someone for 7 years. And a lot of times it was like slavery, but in 7 years they were released. And
yeah, you're paying off an expense.
Exactly.
Somebody paid for you to get here, and you paid off the cost by serving them.
They are indentured servants, and slavery are not the same. Just to clarify.
Well, the indentured servants didn't usually walk around in chains and things of that nature, and. But anyways, you know, what's the matter? I said, boy, there's no difference between an indentured servant.
You can't embarrass me no matter what you say, because I'm unembarrassable.
Hold on a second. If you wait, I'm going to get up and do the moonwalk right now. Hang on.
No, please don't. I'm telling you, don't do it. Only Michael Jackson can do that.
You know, you would think so, but this knucklehead was willing to do it during a news I'm speechless.
I know.
And his wife had to get up and say, don't do the moonwalk.
Don't do the moonwalk. I've seen you do it. It's more like a Mars walk.
Oh, well. Now, Ocasio-Cortez, she put up the new Green Deal and took it down.
Well, look, I was watching this guy on Tucker, I guess last week or earlier this week.
But the guy who looks like he stuck his finger in a light socket?
Yes, exactly. The same one, the professor, the indentured professor. And
doesn't he also do Ancient Aliens? Is he also the guy on Ancient Aliens too?
He was doing all this stuff. I mean, yes, that's not what we meant. You don't understand. That's not what we said. Of course, it is exactly what they said. So they're trying to deny that and back out of it. But, you know, it's insane what's going on. Absolutely insane.
I don't see the problem with it.
Well, I mean, for the average American who looks at this and goes, are you kidding me?
So first off, the only thing we have to do is we have to remodel 30,000 buildings a day for the next 12 years, which I don't see that as a problem. I can't even get a contractor to show up to shovel the snow off my driveway, let alone we're going to get 30,000 houses and buildings rebuilt.
Well, this
daily.
is just a conversation starter. You understand that? Well, the conversation has started.
It is a conversation starter. Did you want to see me do the moonwalk? I don't know, because that's kind of a conversation starter too.
Right. Yeah, please go ahead.
So we're going to rebuild 30,000 buildings every day. Mm-hmm. We're going to get rid of air travel. We're going to make trains to Hawaii. I think that would be good. Underground, underwater train. Mm-hmm. Like a submarine, but it'd be a solar-powered submarine. I'm not quite sure how that works. Maybe it could be hydrogen-powered. There's lots of hydrogen in the water.
If we put a man on the moon, we can do this.
Yeah, that was it. That's it. It's it in a nutshell. Was President Kennedy, did he back down when he came up with put a man on the moon versus?
Absolutely not.
Except he had the opportunity of using fossil fuels to get us there.
No, he didn't.
He did. So at any rate, she took it down off her website.
So they're not getting rid of fossil fuels. They're rendering them obsolete.
Yeah. So the new Green Deal says free housing, free food, and free everything, even for those who do not wish to work.
Sounds like socialism to me.
0 hydrocarbons in 12 years, no air travel, no trains, all trains, no cars. We'll have to throw 263 million cars and trucks away. Won't that become a dump site issue? 263 million cars and trucks. I'm just thinking out loud here. Oh, wait a minute. No, we'll have room for those because we're cleaning the straw problem up.
Right.
So since we got all the straws out of the dumps, we have room for 263 million cars to put in the dumps now.
So let me ask you a question. Who actually believes this stuff? Because there are a lot of people who do. So who are the people who believe this and think that the American people are ready to embrace this idea and run with it?
Son, I'm going to tell you who believes this. Morons. That's
unapologetic morons.
I do say they are morons, son. So I want you to understand something here. I took this right from the Ocasio-Cortez Brain Trust website.
Yes.
Okay, so I did not make this up.
No.
This is not my interpretation. This is me reading directly from the site.
Get on with it.
I'm trying to set the table here. Just back off, son. All right. Now, here you go. She says that the housing market in America has now turned into the playground for rich developers. Okay?
The housing market is the playground for rich developers. Mm-hmm.
Correct.
Yeah.
Which I'm happy to call myself one of those, so I'm pleased. Mm-hmm. So anyways, it's the playground for rich developers that we are keeping people out of housing projects. Mm-hmm. She then goes on to say there are more empty luxury apartments in New York than there are homeless people. And this is wrong. Mm-hmm. Now, here's my question. As one of those evil wealthy developers, how exactly would I make money off of having a glut of vacant luxury apartments? So if it's the playground, how much of a playground is this if I'm sitting, according to her, I'm sitting with this massive inventory of empty luxury apartments, and that's making me money? How does that work?
It doesn't.
She literally completely reverses and contradicts herself within one paragraph.
What can I say about an economics college education from Boston University or wherever she went to school in Boston?
Now, wait a minute. Before we let go of Ocasio-Cortez, she jumped on the Elizabeth Warren bandwagon this week, and now claims that she's the rightful heir to America because of Native Americans, because Native Americans and Mexicans are the same.
As indigenous people, Mexicans are, Spanish mix. Mix.
So what's her last name?
Cortez.
Yes, as in the conquistador?
The conquistador? Conquistador?
The conquistador Cortez.
You mean the guy that from Spain that came over and raped, pillage, and burn?
Yes, and destroyed the Aztec nation
Mm-hmm.
and enslaved them?
Yeah, well, that's what Democrats do.
So let me understand this. If I came from Europe and I went to and I crossed over from Europe to America, I'm an invader. But if my heritage comes from Spain, killed, pillaged, and enslaved Mexico, I'm now an inheritor of the land.
I don't know. I mean, this is all so insane.
I mean, I'm looking at this and I'm saying, your name's Cortez.
I've never made that connection before. You just made that connection for me. I never really got that. I don't know whether she's a blood relative of Cortez or not, but it doesn't matter. The point is, what's really going on, Mark, is that these people that are part of our country and citizens of our country hate the founding so much of our country because of slavery and whatever else we did, because white men did it, because they came from, privilege and all that kind of stuff. They want to, when they say I want to transform America, they want to tear everything down. They want to tear it down and start all over again because they don't think that America can ever be a good place. It didn't start off good, and it continues to be bad, and no matter what, any other system that would replace it would be better. So that's really what they're all about. And however they get there, the method they get there, who knows? But they're unhappy. They're, dissatisfied. They're irate because of the founding of this country.
It is right now, we are in, all kidding aside, we are now in a battle between capitalism and socialism.
Oh, we are. And I think Trump pointed that out last night about, capitalism, what happens. The only problem is it's like Republicans and Democrats and conservatives. I don't think people really understand the difference between socialism and capitalism. I honestly don't, because there's so many variables in it. There are crony capitalists, which all capitalists who are conservatives would be against, who use the government and everything else, but they're underlined under capitalism. Socialism, we understand it if we really know what it is. It's like, what's a woman's name that was running in Minnesota that came out in the middle of a snowstorm and declared with a giant...
Klobuchar.
Yeah, now Klobuchar came out and she said, no, I'm a progressive. She did what Hillary Clinton did back in 2008. She said, I'm a progressive. Well, most people have no idea what a progressive really is. They don't know where it came from. They don't know how it just sounds good, like Progressive Insurance.
Now, did you watch that, by the way?
No.
I watched a few minutes of it, and I thought she was doing it from inside a snow globe.
Oh, it was whiteout. It was a complete whiteout. It was insane. I mean, people in Minnesota, they elected her. So, they elect a lot of interesting people.
Okay, but you're in the middle of a snow globe giving a speech, and you're telling people how part of your presidency is going to be fighting global warming.
But doesn't that happen every time? Every time Al Gore steps out and says global warming, he gets drowned by rain or snow or something. So it hit by an avalanche.
All right, we got a couple of questions from the audience. Shelley Cove says, Ocasio-Cortez is unworthy of our attention. She thinks these are just distractions that are keeping us from focusing on the real issues. Do you agree?
No, I don't. I think I disagree with her, and all due respect. And the reason I do, because there's a whole far left wing of the Democrats and even some Republicans, not many, but mostly Democrats, who really embrace this stuff. And they're coming out of college being taught this Marxist kind of trash. And we're going to have to deal with them sooner or later because they're going to build in numbers as they continue to graduate and can continue to persuade other people. So, as they put her forward and push her into this, star position in the Democrat Party, you've just got to lash out and put her in perspective for most people, because a lot of people just don't pay attention.
And I want to add to that too.
And I need to take a break. So you and Rusty continue, okay?
Yes. So I want to add to that, Russ, and that is when you look at Ocasio-Cortez, if you think about it, Russ, what she's doing is she's exposing the real Democratic platform. And Think about this. Every candidate so far who has come out to run for president is signing on to her new Green Deal. So if you think about that, if every candidate that the Democrats are running is signing on to her new Green Deal, then she's not the extreme, is she?
Right. Well, Wants to Be in Cleveland says, asks, can Cortez survive the disastrous Green New Deal? You're saying it doesn't matter. They're ignoring that this is disastrous, right? They're going to continue to push her to be a rock star.
Yeah, she'll survive it as long as she can get her district to keep electing her. Because remember, she's not being elected by an entire country. She's being elected by a very left-wing district in New York. It's no different than a Maxine Waters. I mean, you think about it, how in the world does Maxine Waters get reelected? It's because she has that district that is literally out of touch with reality. So what other questions do we have coming up here, Russ?
But Angie asked, do you agree that the 2020 election isn't about Republicans or Democrats? It's about capitalism versus socialism. And I'd even take it one other step further. Is it socialism or communism?
Socialism and communism are two ends of the same continuum. So the difference between socialism and communism is socialism at the end of a gun. So socialism, or another term is socialism, is communism that you voted into place, where communism usually comes into place by force. No matter how you look at it, they both get down to central planning, bigger government, and the government controlling all of the means of production and controlling the economy. And
that's exactly what that Green New Deal is, isn't it?
The only way to make the Green New Deal work is for the government to essentially take control of the economy. The reason they're comparing the new Green Deal to FDR isn't because this is our World War II moment. It has nothing to do with being a World War II moment. It is using FDR and World War II as a sales pitch, as a platform. Look, we did it before. Now, if we go back, and we're not old enough, but we know history. If we go back and look at World War II, FDR did take control of most of the U.S. economy. The auto companies weren't making cars. They were making weapons. They were building airplanes. Ford Motor Company here in Detroit was building airplanes. General Motors in Ypsilanti was building planes and tanks. So the economy did get taken over by the government. This is what they want. They want the government to be in control because that makes them the rulers.
Okay, let me ask you this from a college kid's point of view. Why is that bad? I mean, if the government can do all these wonderful things and everybody's working, why is that a bad thing?
Well, the first thing we've got to keep in mind that any government that is big enough to give you everything is also powerful enough to take everything you have. The next thing that we've got to get people to understand, and this especially with young people today, they're being indoctrinated in school. The lower level schools, the high schools, especially the universities, are being overrun by the majority of the instructors and professors being left wing. Now, you'd have to ask a question. Why would a college professor want to buy into this stuff? Why would they want to be left wing? And I can answer the question for you. The reason a college professor is left wing and is anti-capitalist is because in a socialist environment, I deserve to be honored based on the time I put in. So because I have a PhD, that makes me the most valuable person in society. In a capitalist society, we don't care if you dropped out of Harvard like Bill Gates. What we care about is, what did you produce? What's the outcome? So think about it. How many college professors have made great contributions to the world? Now, there have been a few, but typically they leave the professorship and move on to business when they do. Chuck is back.
With that. I am back. I have got the Green Apple Quick Step. I just got a hold of some green beer last night. I like to set me free. So,
I say, son, you shouldn't be drinking the green beer.
Too much information. There's some bug going around down here in Central Texas, and I got it. So anyway, yeah, professors it's a funny breed. One of my best friends and you know him well, was a professor for life. He went into, started teaching right out of high school. I grew up with him. He's one of my closest, oldest friends, if not the oldest friend I have. And, but he came out a conservative. How he did it, I have no idea. And I really don't. I've asked him, and he can't explain it other than he just is a rational thinker.
I know a few.
But most, even in even in central Kentucky and places like that, are still left-wing kind of Marxist progressives who don't produce anything except turn students out. And it used to be fine, that they did what they did, but now they're indoctrinating kids. And that story.
And let me give you an example here to continue with what you were asking, Russ, and that is when you think of socialism, socialism is a philosophy, and for the most part, even somewhat of a religion. Capitalism is not a philosophy. Capitalism is an operating system. It's very different. When you look at capitalism, why does it work? Because it's the only way that you can get total strangers. You can get people who have no tie to each other, do not know each other, and you can get them to cooperate based upon their own self-interest, right? I go into a store, I want to buy something. I have no idea who these people are. They have something I want. We cooperate by agreeing that I will give them so many of these dollars for this thing they have. I get what I want. They made money. Everybody's happy. You can't do that under socialism because in socialism, there is no cooperation. It's coercion. It's not cooperation. It's the government. It's government coercion to force people to work in certain jobs, to force people to buy certain goods. So the first, and I'll get this point out. You look at Ocasio-Cortez. She loves socialism. And she'll preach about socialism while wearing a $3,000 designer jacket, a $700 pair of designer shoes, holding a $1,200 iPhone. How much of that stuff exists in communism or socialism?
A lot of people forget, Mark, and maybe they're too young to remember because they weren't around. But when Russia was a communist country and a socialist country, because communists and socialists are the same as were Nazis and socialists. So when they were a socialist country, I can remember all the reports of being out of bread, having, shelves cleaned out, stores cleaned out, people waiting in line for things they didn't want, and then they would run out. It was the same exact story that is going on in Venezuela today. That was going on in the 50s and 60s, and maybe even into the 70s. And then once Reagan kind of stood up to them and the Kremlin turned over, they became, in a sense, they became capitalist instead of socialist in a way. So it's a form of capitalism, and they started to thrive, as did China.
Right. China was destroyed until they embraced capitalism.
That's right.
Not that they're a capitalist country, but they realized that they could no longer have a centrally controlled economy, that you had to have business. An example would be walk into a Nordstrom's and tell me how the service is. Okay, now walk into to your local DMV or Social Secretary of State's office and tell me what the service is. When government controls the ability to produce, variety goes out the window, selection goes out the window.
Well, you become a prisoner of government. That's all. It's just,
and where's
really
the incentive?
There is no incentive. That's why it fails.
Right. Why should I go out of my way to give you great service when I know that I'm going to get a guaranteed $15 an hour, whether I spit in your face or whether I do the most magnificent job servicing you as a customer? Where's my incentive?
There is no incentive.
Correct.
Yeah.
And
but I mean,
that's what you end up with.
But try to argue that with a kid who just got out of college who believes that socialism is the answer. They can't answer any of these questions. They really don't know anything, but they think they do.
Well, so I've got a comment here that kind of fits along the line, and also something I'd like you to put in comparison with Martin Luther King Day that was just recently. From Suprock, paleface, this is all in caps, by the way. Paleface, just a fact. America is returning back to its original shade! Exclamation point.
Okay. I'm not.
Fine. So was the original shade red?
Yeah, I'm not quite sure where that was going, Russ. It was.
I mean, this is the stuff they're being taught in college, right? This is the garbage they're being taught out there everywhere. It's all about race now.
everything is reduced to race, and the race baiting left is they will divide you on race. They'll divide you on sex. They'll divide you any way they possibly can. And so, united we stand, divided we fall. They want us to fall. They want us to fail. I mean, look how they celebrate how well America's doing under Trump. They don't.
So let me give you an example. So there's a college in Pennsylvania called Dickinson College.
Yeah.
The school newspaper ran a story last week, and the title of the story is Why White Boys Should Not Be Allowed to Speak. The article was written by a member of the school newspaper who is also listed at the college as one of the school's goodwill ambassadors. The story goes on to say that white boys feel they should have an opinion on everything, and this is due to the fact that they are white boys. White boys should not be allowed to talk anymore in school because black people are sick of hearing them. I'm not making this up.
No, I believe you. I don't think you are.
This is not the only place this is happening. Now, let me ask a question. What if we put out an article that said black boys should be seen and not heard? Would there be any controversy, any problems with that?
The minute you get to the shoe on the other foot, you're going to get shot down by the media and the left. That's all.
Okay, but that's racist.
It's racist. There's no, but once you've established that if you're black, you can't be racist.
We have another college professor who wrote a op-ed, and she is asking all of her students to be white boy spies. And I want to point something out here. There's a common thread in all of these school newspaper comments. It's all the term white boys. Mm-hmm. It's not white women. It's not white people. It's white boys. And I think they're using the term boys as a pejorative.
Exactly. You're exactly right.
So she wants all students.
Because there were people in the South who referred to grown men who were black as boy. Do this, boy, come here, boy. And it was very offensive. So they're able to now flip this over and talk about white boys. And, that's my take on it. Whether that's right or not, I don't know.
So this particular college professor is now asking all the students to use their cell phones, their cameras, and record any white boy doing anything that you think you might be able to use against them when they get a career in the future.
I'm telling you.
And to store this information and save it so that the next time one of these blonde-haired, blue-eyed, saccharine-smiling white boys is sitting before Congress waiting for their confirmation, you'll have the proof. So, as an example,
what a wonderful goal in life.
So if you happen to be at school and there's maybe you're at a dorm where they have a weekly gang rape, and they do that every week, and the same girls show up every week. Well, this is what they accused Kavanaugh of.
Right.
He was having weekly gang rape parties. And remember that one girl, she went there 10 times, until she figured out she should probably stop. So, I mean, I went 10 times and then I quit going. Really? So it took you 10 times to decide that the weekly gang rape party was a bad idea? What did you, during gang rape 7, 8, and 9, what were you thinking? Were you just on the bubble at that point?
Well, it was a lie,
So, by the way, did you see the most boring presidential candidate to date, I think, is now Elizabeth Warren, She's actually replacing Al Gore, I think, as the most boring presidential candidate.
Well, she's far more awkward. It's very interesting if you watch the body language of two people who, one is a potential runner, Beto, and the other is Elizabeth Warren. They are the most awkward people. If you watch Beto talk, it looks like he's just getting ready for liftoff. His hands are everywhere, and it's just, I thought he was going to fly over the wall in El Paso.
I saw that last night. It looked like he had just drank five-hour energies. It's like he had 25 hours of energy.
He must have the metabolism of a gnat. I mean, it was just amazing.
Yeah, he was vibrating.
Yeah.
And he looked clumsy.
Well, that's what I mean. They're very awkward people, both of them. I don't know why that is. It's just, they're physically awkward.
Now, Elizabeth Warren, she kicked off her campaign with a 2-hour speech.
Well, Elizabeth Warren has a lot to say that nobody wants to hear.
Well, she took 2 hours to say it.
Exactly.
Here's the parts I thought that was best. So she did the speech with, the typical cadre of supporters sitting, standing behind her.
Right.
The people behind her started sneaking off the dais. And so the crowd behind her was thinning as she was giving the speech. There were two people back there with a blanket that actually crawled under the blanket for a while.
Well, it's funny. Politicians are weird. Once they start getting this adulation from all of these people that are surrounding them in open air venues or whether in an auditorium or whatever, I don't think they're used to it. I don't think she's used to that. And all of a sudden, they embrace it and think no matter what they do, no matter how they say it, people are just going to latch onto every word and salivate over every sentence, and they don't. And then eventually, they tire.
Now, as this thing was progressing, at one point, she reached over and grabbed this small boy and literally yanked him into frame for a photo op. And then she gave this weird smile. It was like, what was that? It was more of a grimace. It was more of a kind of thing like that.
Well, when you're awkward like she is, everything is forced. Nothing is natural. Just like the beer thing on, when she was talking on it was all forced. It didn't look natural and didn't look real because it's not her. It's who she wants you to think she is. Now, did you see her Instagram video? Which one is that?
I'm going to get me a beer.
Well, that's what I was just talking about.
Did you? And you noticed the cookie jar that was behind her, did you?
No.
Okay, this is how stupid you are. You're shooting not you. No. You're brilliant.
Well, you said this is how stupid you are. Wow. Okay. Thank you very much, partner.
I constantly tell people how brilliant Chuck Woolery is.
Yes, right.
I do. So anyways, you shoot a video in your kitchen. You're pretending that you drink beer. You don't even know what to do with it. You take a swig of it as if you're drinking battery acid. And sitting up on the top of your kitchen cabinets is a black Sambo cookie jar with black Sambo eating a watermelon.
Oh, stop. Oh, God.
Yes.
Is that true? Oh,
it is true.
Yeah, well.
So it's this black face boy cookie jar, and he's got a watermelon that's about 8 times the size of his head, and he's chomping on a watermelon. Because, let's see, I'm going to do a video. I'm going to pretend I'm drinking beer. Oh, let's put this racist cookie jar in the background. So, could you not at least move the racist cookie jar before you do the video?
It's so frustrating when you hear things like this, and the press never covers it. They never talk about it. They never, they cover for all these people. They carry their water. And the public has no idea unless they're looking and see that. And by the way, I must say that it's interesting you would point that out because we're living in kind of a hypersensitive time, I would think.
Mm-hmm.
But I doubt if most people would even notice that.
It's there, folks. Go watch the video.
But,
look at the top of the kitchen. Look at the top of the kitchen counters, or not the counters, the top of the cabinets. So the camera's on the counter. There's kitchen cabinets on the wall. There's knickknacks across the top of the cabinets. Look up there, black Sambo cookie jar eating a giant freaking watermelon.
Senator Elizabeth Warren. Front
Why?
runner.
So are you familiar with something which is called Dunning-Kruger by any chance, Chuck?
Dunning-Kruger?
Dunning-Kruger, like Freddy
No.
Krueger.
Oh, it's a name, Dunning-Kruger.
It's two people's names, Dunning-Kruger.
Okay.
Dunning-Kruger were the pair of research psychologists. And they did some work, and they came up with what's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, or affect would be the correct term. And it is the point when people's own incompetency has risen to such a level that they no longer possess the self-awareness of knowing how incompetent they are. The Democratic Party has been stricken with Dunning-Kruger. It's like an epidemic that is sweeping through the party.
But ask yourself, why is that? Why is that happening?
I could give you some reasons for it.
Because it's obviously happening. So we're watching it every day unfold, and they get crazier and crazier. I remember tweeting out before the Congress came in, the Democrat Congress came in, that things were going to get worse. Although you thought it was as bad as it was going to be, it's now going to get worse. So I believe that Trump is probably the primary fuse to all of this. He's lit the fuse to it. And I think that he is just driving them nuts. I mean, if you look at the economic numbers, the Democrat Party literally are at the place today where they cannot celebrate any success that America is enjoying because they hate Trump so much.
They can't defeat him. Right now, he has a 52% approval rating.
53.
Ooh, another
Went up
point.
one.
Good for him.
Yeah.
But here's the reason.
And by the way, put that in perspective. It's after closing the government for a record amount of time, partially closing the government, which everybody said would destroy him.
They cannot defeat him any other way than to destroy him. They cannot beat him on the battlefield of ideas.
Well, they have to lie about everything. I mean, you talk about the unemployment numbers where they are right now. There's 7 million job openings. 7 million. So and to them, that's bad news.
Right. You can't sell. Here's the point. You have a lot of young people that think socialism is a good idea. But this country is not ready to be a communist country or a socialist country. You can't win an election based on we're going to destroy the country and make it socialist. So the only hope they have, because think about this, Chuck, every candidate who has signed on that they're running for president is endorsing Cortez's New Green Deal. Mm-hmm. So there's no way for anyone to win this election based on, yay, communism. The only way they can do it is to destroy Trump. They have to win by default.
It's very interesting to me, Mark, because this particular thing that all of a sudden they're moving toward a socialist wing of the party. The Democrat Party, I don't care. There were blue dog Democrats, but quite frankly, the Democrat Party for 100 years, starting with Woodrow Wilson, has always been socialist. They've always embraced communism, socialism. They did in the 20s. I mean, what do you think the movie Reds was about? That was the Democrat Party. So this is nothing new. It's just that it's new because they're admitting it now. I mean, when Joe the plumber, ostensibly said to Barack Obama, this is a socialist thing that you're doing. And Barack Obama not only ran from it, he tried to destroy Joe the plumber and his people. But they were running from this idea of being socialist for 100 years now. And so all of a sudden they're starting to say, now that's who we are. Now we admit it. Because progressivism, quite frankly, is socialism. Communism comes out of progressivism. Nazism comes out of progressivism. Fascism comes out of progressivism. So all of those things are born in progressivism. So they might as well just say we're all socialists now, one degree or another, but we're still socialists. And there are a lot of Republicans, by the way, who are socialists too.
Oh, absolutely. There's tons of Republicans who believe in bigger government.
Right. Mm-hmm.
But bigger government never solves a problem.
No, it generates more problems that they have to run on to solve. I mean, it's a machine.
Think about it. What does the government create?
Problems.
Well, that's all they do, and they don't create solutions.
No,
that's why they fear this president.
They don't want solutions. They want to talk about solutions, but they never want solutions, which is why Trump is such a thorn in their side.
Both parties.
He is, absolutely. There's no question about it. These anti-Trumpers, have you noticed that all of the magazines and things that are anti-Trumpers on the Republican side are gone out of business?
Yeah, you're right.
They're all going out of business.
I think a Weekly Standard, is that the one I'm thinking of?
Yeah, it's gone. But there are others, and they're just, the American people, I believe, he has learned or intuitively does touch the American person closer than anybody. I mean, and it's the Democrats are very jealous of that, and they don't understand it. They really don't. But he talks in a way that people just it resonates with your average blue collar, normal American.
I was watching CBS. CBS was releasing their instant poll after the president's State of the Union address.
Well, they must have been crying over there.
CBS Instant Poll reports that 76% of people who watch the president's speech approve of it, either highly or substantially, and 72% of people approve of his policy on border security. Obviously, this poll is not. Now, obviously, this poll wouldn't be accurate. It's the CBS, their poll. Obviously, this poll wouldn't be accurate because it would be hot.
And CNN had the same thing. They
same numbers.
Experienced exactly the same thing.
They all had the same numbers. They were all 76 and 72. And their excuse was, well, that's because Trump supporters tend to be the only people that watch the State of the Union address.
Well, then why take the poll? If it's not an accurate poll, then why take the poll? Because they were convinced that it would be just the opposite. That's why they took the poll.
And here we are several days later with Rasmussen, which is the only pollster that actually has a legitimate poll.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And here we have Rasmussen doing a poll who is now 52, and you're saying at 53% approval rating. Right. You cannot defeat him. Not at this point. You have to destroy him. You cannot beat him on the battlefield of ideas or on the battlefield of a better vision for America. You have to ruin him.
The reason is because I think the American people are reasonable, most of them. And when you're reasonable and someone reasons with you, you have a tendency to gravitate to that person. When someone lies to you over and over again and promises you things that never come to be, the only thing that flies in the face of that is the black community, which I literally do not understand. And that is, Democrats have been promising black stuff for, 50 years? And none of it ever happens. None of it ever comes through. Trump comes on board and says, look, I know you're not going to vote for me. That's fine, but I'm going to help you. So in order to get rid of poverty, the best way to get rid of poverty is to create a job. So he creates these jobs for all these black people, and they still don't embrace him. And I don't understand it. I really don't. But another thing is the Democrat Party and leadership has never allowed black people to understand the history of the Democrat Party. They've got this excuse that there was a break and all this kind of stuff. But the Republican Party and the Democrat Party have a very, very different history. The Republican Party has always been supportive ever since Lincoln. And the Democrat Party has never been supportive ever since Lincoln.
I'm going to give people a little bit of information to work with. First, it's this. You will hear people say that the Republican Party and Democratic Party switched places.
Yeah, it didn't happen.
It didn't happen, but there is a history to that. Yes. And the history to that is comes from Hubert Humphrey. And it was the Humphrey platform. And it was at that presidential at that DNC meeting where the Humphrey platform was adopted, and the platform was to tell people the parties switched.
Mm-hmm.
Not that they did. One person switched sides. It was, let's go tell them we switched places. It was a deliberate marketing move. We are the party of racism. We are the party that wanted slavery. We are the party that kept blacks from having guns. We're the party of Crow. We're the party of the black laws. We're the party of segregated schools. This ain't working for us. Let's go tell them we switch sides and see if they'll fall for it.
Well, it's like this. I mean, the Republican Party used to be represented back when Tim Russert was on NBC by the color blue. We were blue and Democrats were red.
Mm-hmm.
And Tim Russert just decided to switch. He said, I like red better for Republicans. It makes Democrats look like we're communists, which we are.
Here's a little breaking news for you here, too. Here's a little breaking news, which is not breaking news for any rational person. Senate committee finds no direct evidence of Trump-Russia collusion, according to NBC. Okay, so for NBC to report no collusion means that there must have been a building full of evidence that was so insurmountable against it that NBC couldn't even climb over the boxes. Yeah. According to NBC News report, the Senate Intelligence Committee is approaching the end of its investigation after 2 years and 200 interviews. Both Republicans and Democrats on the committee, note that says Democrats, concluded there was no direct evidence of collusion between the Trump campaign and Russia. So now the president...
It didn't happen. We know that it didn't happen. We also know that it was contrived to get rid of Donald Trump. We know that. We know it by evidence. We know it by Bruce Orr, Nellie Orr, McCabe, Comey, Strzok. I mean, you name all the people involved. And Weissman, who's, what's his name, second in command, Mueller's second in command. He was told about the dossier and all this kind of stuff. We know that this was a giant setup. And the frustrating part about it is we know it. NBC, ABC, CBS, MSNBC, and CNN
MS-13. I like MS-13 NBC.
But they constantly not only deny it, but they constantly carry the water saying, yes, Russia colluded and Trump colluded with him and all this kind of stuff. When in fact, they know that the DNC and Hillary Clinton were into this up to their necks. But I find it fascinating that Trump has not revealed some of these FISA court applications, that he hasn't. I just wonder if it's going to be so far down the road, people just won't care anymore.
Well, I mean, but you still have people like Schiff and Maxine Waters that are calling him just refer to him as a Russian spy and a Russian stooge. Now, meanwhile, the president has now been served 79 different subpoenas since the new Congress took over.
Yeah, it'll never stop. They will overwhelm the White House with this stuff.
79.
Well, they're trying to stop him from solving problems.
One of them.
It's that simple.
So Adam Schiff has come out and said, well, if we can't prove you spied on the Russians, then we're going to investigate every one of your businesses. What right does the government have to investigate anybody's businesses?
Yeah, this is all about taking Trump down. They'll do it. They'll go to any means, any lengths, and they have a complete support of the mainstream media. It's that simple. If they didn't have the mainstream media, they'd be out of business. Period. But
you've got it. I don't care who you are. I don't care if you hate Trump. You are not a rational individual if you cannot admire his tenacity and how tough he is.
Oh, listen, how he puts up with this every day is astonishing. The withering attacks don't even cover what this is like with, it just seems like he thrives on it. And it's almost like a new toy to him every day. He gets up and plays with it every day.
How could you,
you know what the difference is? I'll tell you what the difference is. Everybody, it's normal for everyone to want to be liked. I want to be liked. You want to be liked. I want people to like me. Trump is at the place where, these politicians will do anything to make people. I mean, look what the Republicans do with the Democrats, how they bow to the Democrats just to be liked.
Mm-hmm. Yes, thinking that this will be the time they won't call me a racist.
Right. Yeah, and it never happens. So Trump is in the enviable position of saying, I don't care whether you like me or not. I don't get up every morning worrying about whether you like me or not. I get up every morning considering, how can I help the American people? How can I help this government get on the right track? And I don't care whether you like the way I do it or not. It doesn't matter to me, and you don't have to like me. Well, once you take that out of the equation, then you can just blast forward and laugh your way through it because you don't care.
Right. The Republicans are like Charlie Brown and the Democrats are like Lucy.
Mm-hmm. I've heard that.
Yes. And Lucy puts the football up there, and this is the time I won't take it away, Charlie. Right. And the Republicans run up there to kick it. Oh, they won't call me a racist this time. And they always snatch the football away and end up calling him a racist.
And basically, Trump is just, he just stopped all that. And it's
but
very
how do you not
frustrating.
admire him, though? How do you not admire his ability to keep going? Even if you hate him, how do you not admire that?
I don't know. I don't know. I don't know how to answer that.
But meanwhile, you want to keep campaigning that, well, we need to keep, Virginia needs to keep their own version of Al Jolson in office.
Right.
Because he's the moral compass. Now, the Democrats, I would bring this up to you. The Democrats are the party of women, right?
So they say.
But they're the women's movement. They're women's rights. They are pro-women. We hate women over here in the Republican Party.
Well, no, they're not, but that's what they say. Go ahead.
So the Democrats have this beautiful art display now in D.C. It's a robotic figurine of Ivanka Trump dressed up, vacuuming a carpet. And what you do is you go to it and you throw crumbs on the floor and make Ivanka vacuum up your crumbs. Would you explain to me how that is somehow
it's just being disrespectful,
defending the rights and the respect and the honor of women, having a robot of a famous woman vacuuming up crumbs, and they encourage you to bring food and throw it at her so that she can vacuum it up?
Make you feel better about yourself. I have no idea in what context that works, but it does, For some people it does. It just doesn't. It's another thing is the Democrats really reach out to these little fraction groups. By the way, speaking of polls, which we talked about earlier, and before we close out because we're getting really close on time, so I want to mention this. Gallup went to the Southern Hemisphere, and they asked all of these people in a poll, who would like to leave your country and go somewhere else? And 120 million people said they would like to leave their country and go somewhere else. 45 million or 47 million said that they wanted to come to the United States.
Right. Number one place.
Can you imagine if a million, much less 47 million, showed up on our border? Would it be a crisis then for Gavin Newsom? Would it be a crisis then for the Democrats?
You're a racist.
Yeah, right.
That's why. Bob Menendez just issued something saying that if illegal aliens are arrested for DUI, they should not be considered a criminal. Now, my question is, what happens if Chuck Woolery gets picked up for DUI?
I get thrown in jail or warning or something. I think what do you get in Texas? Like 2 or 3 DUIs and you're done.
Well, here in Michigan, if you have
jail.
a third one, it's a mandatory year in jail.
Yeah, I think it is in Texas too.
But he says that if they, now check this out, if illegal aliens have been convicted of a DUI, he said they should not be thought as criminals and should not face jail time. So if you're an American, you should go to jail for drunk driving. If you are an illegal alien, you get a free get out of jail card. Why? What's wrong with that?
Does anyone ever ask why? Why do you feel that way? That's the follow-up question. It's the simple question that no one ever goes to dig deeper. But
last thing I'll hit you with. I got something for you. I want one thing to leave you with. Ilhan Omar. Have you been watching that mess? That train wreck?
The Islamist from, where's she from, Minnesota or?
Minnesota.
Yeah, Minnesota, right.
Via Somalia.
Yeah, she and the woman from
right
Michigan.
here. She's
They're
actually the congressperson for where our studios are located.
Yeah, quite frankly, these two people are Islamists in our government.
She says that Jews are hypnotizing the world to support them. I did not know that every Jew is a hypnotist. Did you know that? I mean, I do hypnotism, but I had no idea all the Jews knew how to do it. Jeez. Yeah, her and Rashid Tlaib from right here in beautiful Redford in Detroit, Michigan.
They're all Farrakhan girls, too.
Yeah, they're basically just on this mass anti-Semitic Jew-hating tirade inside the Congress. Yep. And they finally went far enough to get Nancy Pelosi to say, well, you need to calm it down. Yeah. Try to keep the Jew-hating to a minimum. Just keep the Jew-hating to a low roar.
Didn't take her off the committee, though, did they?
No. Because why wouldn't an anti-Semitic Jew-hater not belong on the Council for International Affairs?
Exactly.
That makes too much sense. It's a perfect place for him. Well, Chuck, we're coming up on the end. Any last comments? Anything for you, Rusty? Anything there we got to deal with?
No, but how do I get hats? How do I get stuff from Blunt Force Truth?
Oh, this is it. The hat. This is the hat that will.
That looks terrible.
Well, it's sitting on top of my headphones.
It looks like dunce. It looks like a dunce hat. It doesn't look like that, folks. I have one.
No, it looks better than that, but it's on top of a set of headphones right now. But this is a great hat because this is a hat that will guarantee you to probably get into a fight at a Starbucks.
Yeah, really.
So now, if I don't want a hat, would I be able to get like a coffee cup or something to have at the Starbucks?
Rusty just likes to set those softballs up there, and then I get to swing at them. Look at this, Russ.
Nice.
There it is.
Now, the only thing that would make it better is if I could wear a T-shirt while wearing the hat and drinking the cup. Is that possible?
Your wish is my command. There it is. I love my country, but I fear my government.
Well, where would I get it, Mark?
Go to the store at bluntforcetruth.com. Folks, if you've enjoyed
I'm sorry, I
today's
didn't
show,
hear that. What was that?
bluntforcetruth.com.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Folks, if you've enjoyed today's show, please go leave us a 5-star review, iTunes, iHeart, Stitcher, any place else you get the show. Make sure you follow Chuck at Chuck Woolery on Twitter. I'm at Mark Young Truth, and not because I'm trying to say I'm the most truthful guy in the world, but somebody else already had Mark Young. And that's about it for today. Any last words, Chuck?
Nope. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you next time on Blunt Force Truth. Bye-bye, everybody.